Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Maritime CEO Leader Series, powered by Ocean Technologies Group. We're delighted to have assembled a ship management special today, and we are starting in the Isle of Man. Kuba, thank you for joining us. I wanted you, no pressure, to set the scene by kind of giving our viewers an indication of just how great a headache this current pandemic is in terms of recent crises that shipping has faced, I don't know, going back over the last 20 years, whether it was SARS, the global financial crisis, whatever it might be. How does what the last 2 or 3 months compare to everything else that ship managers have faced over the last 20 years in terms of the complexities involved?
I love your wording, crisis, tragedy, and everything. Well, with this mindset, it will be extremely difficult to deal with it. But ship managers don't have this outlook. We look at this as challenges. This is part of our job. This is what we do. More difficult the life, the better we are. And okay, Darwin said that years and years ago, then the fittest survive. Is this the fight now for the survival? I don't think so. Ship managers have braced the situation, challenges, and we are getting on with situations and challenges as we speak. You were talking about the headaches. Yeah, we might have some things which are waking us in the middle of the night, and these would definitely be crew changes. This is what we are concentrating on at the moment, trying to persuade many stakeholders to work with us, to help us, to assist us. But first of all, we had to educate them. Why do we need to do that? And I'm absolutely delighted to report to you that over the last 7, now maybe 8 weeks, since 23rd of March, where the world started locking down, closing down, stopping flights and everything, basically, if you look at the world, almost every walk of life stopped, except shipping. Shipping has not stopped for a second. Shipping is a backbone. We have been going, thanks to our seafarers, thanks to people in the office, and so on and so forth. And with this outlook, these people had to persuade others and work together. So over the last 8 weeks, I'm delighted to report that fierce competitors got together and started working on solving the problem. A lot of our guys were part of a solution, trying not to be a part of a problem. So we immediately rolled up others to help us. So ports, airlines, authorities. Look at superb achievement by ICS-led project. Then within 5 weeks, we prepared protocols and procedures which went through IMO and last week were issued as a set of guidelines to everyone involved in crew changes. In 5 weeks? Have you ever heard about that? Not 5 years, not 5 months, 5 weeks. This is unbelievably quick. It's not very quick for Kuba Szymanski shipmaster, who has to wait 5 weeks before he goes home, but it is unprecedented speed we have created. I can see you with a little helper with us. Hello.
I've got another question for you. Sure. Do you have a favoured football team? My wife's is Lech Poznan.
Well, yeah, I should say Odra Opole probably, but to be perfectly honest, I haven't played football myself. And if you were asking me about sailing and yachting, then we would be talking, yes.
The reason I'm saying that is you guys, you've launched the Maritime Champions League. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I may say then you guys, journalists, are behind that. We believe that in shipping industry, we are lacking positive outlook. Your colleagues, your fellow journalists are always after us whenever something disastrous happens. You know, the vocabulary used is all about very negative, bleak, black, and so on and so forth. And I thought, it's no point criticizing you guys. That's the nature of the beast. This is what you guys do. However, if we were to help you and provide you with something positive, maybe you will concentrate on that as well. I'm not saying that we are trying to divert you from the bad things. No, by all means, report that. But if we were to give you a chance to see something positive, see our industry actually doing something which you can be proud, we can be proud, and other industries can actually look at, and that's the idea of Champions League. let's respect, let's accept people who have been working very, very hard, replacing, relieving, repatriating seafarers. And that's what we created. And also, we are able to show other stakeholders that it is possible to get a Filipino seafarer from Hong Kong, Singapore, Amsterdam, Berlin to their home place. Then we can relieve Polish seafarers from Brazil, from all over the world, and we can also on-sign Polish, Indian, Ukrainian, you name it, Filipino. It's happening, guys. So there is no point speculating whether it is possible or not. No, it's happening. Those who do not look at the world as a tragic situation and whatever, they are working. They rolled up their sleeves and they found the solutions. I'll use Poland or I'll use Ukraine if you wish. There are no flights to Poland or Ukraine. Yeah, but there are flights to Berlin. And Berlin is only 90 kilometers away from Poland, 120 kilometers from Szczecin, if you wish, 500 kilometers from Warsaw. So yes, we can fly to Berlin and from Berlin, and that's what we do. The same with Minsk when it comes to Ukraine, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, whenever there is a challenge, there will be a solution. And I'm delighted to say that members of InterManager are just focusing on challenges and solving them.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Kuba. I think we've had one of those interviews, like the classic BBC one with the child coming in at the back of the office and the guy pretending that he's not there. Well, this one, he's been listening intently. Thank you very much for your time. I think what you're doing is showing what an impressive, swift action ship managers are doing as a whole to sort this problem out. So thank you for that. So, Frank, where has the regulatory scene got things so wrong in handling this crisis? You're not someone known to hold back when you see that there's been problems. You've been pretty vocal in the past couple of months. Tell me where you see things have gone wrong.
I mean, the short answer is just about everywhere. The bottom line of it is that we have shown ourselves to, from a regulatory perspective, we've shown how wholly inadequate the IMO is in dealing with a crisis. But then, to be fair, it was never designed to deal with a crisis. It's a regulatory arm that is there to hit ship owners over the head with regulations and force it to go down a path. The other thing that's really gone wrong here from the maritime perspective and a regulatory perspective is that we've exposed our soft underbelly in our ability to self-promote and self-govern. And it has greatly emphasized the fact that maritime is a blind industry. Blind insofar as we have no lobby, we have no ability to influence governments, and we are blind to everyone else. So that's been highlighted by the way that, yes, the IC, International Chamber of Shipping, yes, the InterManager, yes, the IMO, yes, IART, but we're talking to ourselves. We're going nowhere. We're going round in circles. Yes, I'm noisy. I'm noisy on LinkedIn. Everybody who likes me is someone in maritime. I've reached out to people in the industry and said, can't you get something in the big news? Yeah, we got something on the New York Times. Yeah, Captain Uni managed to get something in a podcast on the BBC. But it didn't go anywhere. Prime Minister Modi doesn't care. He's abandoned his seafarers. Boris is more interested in clapping for the NHS, which is fine. Absolutely clap for the NHS. I personally did not support the ship's horns because it was pointless. We were tooting to ourselves. What's really been highlighted is our own inadequacies in terms of being able to self-promote and being able to get people to understand the value that the maritime industry brings. So we've just issued a plethora of guidance, which has gone nowhere because nothing will change unless governments wake up to what needs to be done.
Give us an idea of what it's costing you to move crew around the world. Let's take India.
On the one hand, we've got less crew flights because there's less crew changes. But then on the other hand, India decides that there will be no crew, there'll be no citizens in or out until recently, when they're now chartering planes to fly citizens who are out of a job in Dubai home, woohoo. But their citizens at sea can only be changed if they are in India. And then the authorities there are charging anywhere between $90,000 and $180,000 to change your crew, which includes the crew change, the COVID testing, the isolation, and all of these exorbitant things that are suddenly very, very expensive in India compared to anywhere else. So you can imagine that if you could persuade an owner or a charterer to divert a ship for a couple of days, then you pay these fees. Then you, if you're even able to get the crew to travel from somewhere inside India where travel is, you're looking at $500,000 to change out a crew, which is clearly ridiculous and daylight robbery. That just doesn't make any sense. In China, we can change out our crew. We can put them in isolation. The Chinese have hotels where they are specifically isolating the crew under control. Then we are, for some of our other owners with Chinese crew, able to go through a test and isolate process and do proper changing. For all the talk about there's no airlines, there are lots of ports in the world where you can do a crew change. There are lots of ports in the world where I'm sure you can get an airplane to fly. But it's no good if you can't get them in and out of the country where they're a citizen.
Yeah.
It's pointless.
So, Mark, what do you think will be the new normal when it comes to ship operations for the coming year or two, as we all have to get used to operating with the coronavirus always in the background until hopefully a vaccine comes along?
I think shipping companies in the next year or two are going to need to remain extremely nimble, flexible, and adaptable, both at the executive decision-making level and in the implementation in the operations. As far as planning is concerned, the luxury that we had 4 or 5 months ago to plan for the medium and distant future to the extent that you ever could in shipping is really very much replaced and taking a backseat. Planning is short-term, almost on a day-by-day basis, and I think that is important as we all cope with the fallout from Corona crisis. As far as crew is concerned, I think we're going to have to remain extremely flexible. We've seen jurisdictions such as Singapore initially ahead of the game and relax their lockdown, then reimpose stringent lockdowns. And I think crew have to remain extremely patient and trusting in their employers, and the employers have to remain flexible, because what people are forgetting is that we're all very much on the first wave, and anybody who reads any reports about Corona will realize that there is a second and a third wave to every pandemic such as this, and I think it's wrong to think we're out of the woods just because this lockdown eases. So all of the steps that we took with our business continuity plans at the beginning that are now loosening up, we're 40% back in the office here in Germany, soon to sort of come back on a 60-70%, can be reimposed, and we've got to, as a business model, keep that in the forefront of our minds, that flexibility. I think testing is hugely important for our operations going forward. Columbia, we have our cruise ship management, our Columbia Cruise Services too, that's been massively hit by the whole fallout and the effective collapse of the cruise business. So testing for us as a ship operator, for us as a manager, is hugely important, and we need to have faster, more reliable and cheaper testing. And I think the same issues apply with airlines as they do with the operation of vessels. Testing will be hugely important. Next issue, training. We had yesterday an officer training course where 250 of our officers attended a platform much similar to the one we've got now, and various questions were asked. It was a 2-hour session, one in the morning, one in the evening. That was the second time we've done that. Training remains hugely important. Standards in the industry cannot fall just because we have COVID-19. And we're going to see a lot more training done on a virtual basis than on a face-to-face. Face-to-face remains massively important. We will bring that back in as soon as we can. But I think so much for flexibility testing and training. I think also the question of benefits. You know, we've been very vocal about it's time for employers within the shipping industry to look at the benefits which they afford their crews. You know, the crews have been at the forefront of this COVID-19 battle. Some of them haven't been rotated for 9 months. They've been waiting patiently. They've worked with us. They've realized how important they are. But it is now time, I think, to look again at the whole question of crew benefits. Is a crew member, an able-bodied seaman, entitled to the most basic health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, pension provisions? And these are something that, you know, we've certainly started a study within Colombia to look at all of that to see, is it affordable? Is there a contribution from the crew member? Is there a contribution from the industry and insurers, etc., on how we can facilitate that? So I think that's really, really important too. Mental health, next issue, massively important. You know, people have been talking before COVID-19 about mental health, and perhaps the bravest thing one can do is ask for help. Prince Harry and Prince William and other notable people coming forward before COVID-19, but now mental health is taking a real front place in our considerations. We have commissioned a year and a half ago our own mental health helpline, provided by a company called Mental Health Support Solutions, whereby we have 2 psychologists 24/7 for our shore staff now and our crew members. And whilst I'm not allowed to see the details, I can tell you those people have been working round the clock because people are under huge stresses, both in the office and on board our vessels, and are using this helpline by qualified psychologists to a terrific rate. So I think we're going to see a growth of that, a growth in all of these issues to relate to what really matters in our lives. You know, we've all sat, whether you sit at in your lovely house in France or I'm in Germany, whatever, we've all sat there and we thought, what really matters both to ourselves from a business perspective? You know, is the bottom line the all important, or is there something more that makes us get out of bed in the morning? And from a personal perspective, what's the driver? And I think that's now the challenge for us, is to use all of this creative thinking and actually roll it out going forward. On the actual operational basis, as far as shipping companies are concerned, clearly it has not been possible to send people around the world in the same way that we did in the past. Technical superintendents, marine superintendents just have not been able to visit the vessels. So we're looking at localizing our operation, very much relying on local providers of services, properly vetted and trusted, etc., to support our own people. And that can be positive insofar as from a cost point of view, and also from a new angle, you know, a new set of eyes looking at a particular vessel, not the same old marine superintendent or technical superintendent who visits the same vessels, but a new set of eyes looking at a situation. So that's, I think, a good thing, a localization of business to keep the wheels of this business and this industry turning. And then we look at technology. Of course, if ever there was a positive for the technology industry, it's COVID-19. And look, we're all talking on platforms. I spend 3/4 of my day on various video conferences. I'm more in touch with my business. I hate to admit it. Now I see everybody how they perform on their morning meetings. I know people better than I've ever known them before. And yes, we miss the day-to-day interaction, but everybody knows what is going on, when it's going on, and how it's going on. And that's a huge positive. So I think technology hugely kick-started by this COVID-19. Our performance optimization control room, if ever we needed justification for investing $1.5 million in an optimization control room, it is now, because people are seeing huge benefits from being part of that optimization control room. And we were on a client update yesterday by another platform where we said, guys, if you're not part of the optimization control room, be part of it, have it for free, but be part of it so that you can see what technology can offer, because it really is outstanding. So I think on the technological front, shipping has made a quantum leap over the past 3 or 4 months. How will shipping be affected post-COVID-19, if there is such a thing as post-COVID-19, bearing in mind the various waves. I think there is now perhaps a movement against globalization and a localization of industries. We hear on the news here in Germany day in, day out that industries for making medicines, etc., will be set up back in the home countries because we can't rely on this globalization that previously existed. And perhaps whilst seaborne trade will always be a vital factor, perhaps the growth will slow down compared to the estimates going forward. And perhaps there will be a shift in the importance of China as an employer of tonnage, both for bringing raw materials and taking products. Maybe there will be that sort of shift and a different geographical shift. But I've said before, I don't think we need to or can look at the COVID-19 period as a period of lost time. We can't. We've learned too much. I think this whole COVID-19 has been, in a sense, a business catharsis where there has been exponential learning at all levels through organizations and in individuals. And that is a positive that will take us further forward, because a lot of the lessons that we've learned very quickly and had to learn very quickly will live with us long into the future.
Brilliant. And there was so much there for us to kind of take in and think about. Well, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Pleasure.
So, Graham, turning to you, what good can come from this pandemic mess, do you think?
A couple of benefits we've already seen that have come out of this pandemic. I think, first of all, leveraging the systems that we have in place. Within V.Group, we've invested significantly in a system called Schou, which allows us to manage our vessels and our offices a consistent way across our platform. So by using Schou to its maximum, we can see exactly what's happening on our ships and then pass that information on to our customers if so required, and also the charterers. So that's a very significant benefit. I think the other thing that's actually come out of this is highlighting the importance of communicating and the importance of actually ensuring that our sea staff are really aware of exactly what the situation is and what we're trying to do to help them. As an example, one of the initiatives we've taken is basically that each of my executive team, including myself, will call it a minimum of 3 ships per week and just generally chat to the master, the crew, understand their concerns, understand how we can help them, make sure that they feel they're getting the right level of support. Which means that we're really bringing the executive much closer to the ship. And I think that's really important when you're running a ship management company, is to understand the people on board and the strains and the stresses and the pressures that they're having to endure in this extraordinary period of time.
So, Carl, how do you think demand will actually grow for third-party ship management then in the wake of the coronavirus?
That's a very good question. If I just take one step back and look at the financial crisis, I was going to say I was around then as well. What we saw then was that directly after the financial crisis, or things started to pick up again, we were expecting to see a kind of a big jump in outsourcing of ships. But actually we didn't see that. It did come gradually later on, but we didn't see anything immediately after the crisis. So if we take that as a starting point, I don't really think we will see a big jump in either up or down after the COVID-19 crisis. What I think will happen is that many ship owners, first of all, they will try to cut their own costs. And then if they see this works or doesn't work, depending on the outcome, then we might see, let's say, added activity in the outsourcing segments. We might see more ships coming into ship management, but nothing dramatic, at least that's my opinion. Secondly, what we have actually been discussing is that we think that ship owners might see what has happened during this, let's say, this strange period. We think that the ship owners will start considering outsourcing as a diversification strategy. Because I'm sure many owners have now been hit with employees being sick, hospitalized, things stopping up. So I think more from a diversification perspective, I think owners might start considering ship management or outsourcing to a manager. So let's say link between the financial situation and what's going on. I think, if anything, that will take some time before we see any big change to the norm.
Thank you, Carl, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, everyone stay sane and sanitized. Thank you.